Hey everybody, it is Kellen Nitro for Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited coming at you with another episode of Nitro's Take after a very landmark event in the AEW slash Impact storyline went down tonight on April 25th, 2021. It was Impact's Rebellion pay-per-view taking place from the Skyway Studios, the Impact Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. And this 9-match card had all of the action, intrigue, controversy, if you will, that one could imagine going into this thing, even though it wasn't widely promoted, which is really weird unless you watched Impact Television. Let's dissect this a little bit more, and I'll get your thoughts on what you guys decided to pick for match of the night. It should come to no surprise as to what it was, though. So, checking out the pre-show, it was good. It was about 45 minutes, kind of like a documentary of hype between Omega and Swann, show how both of them won their respective titles and what has led up in the storyline to this very moment so far. And then we had a pre-show match, Knockouts Division Tag Team Contest, the new pairing of Rosemary and Havoc taking on Deonna Purrazzo's lackeys, for lack of a better term, Kimberly and Susan. The two henchwomen for Deonna Purrazzo taking on two wrestlers they've been involved with in past weeks on Impact. This was kind of a passable opener. You had some storyline work between Havoc and Sue, where she kind of triggers Sue Young a little bit to come out of Susan. It's kind of weird. But Havoc hits a tombstone pile driver for the 1-2 free count. The runtime for this one, no runtime listed on Wikipedia. I think it was about 9 minutes, 9.5 minutes or so. I didn't have my timer going for that. But again, a passable kind of pre-show match while everybody's tuning in. More on Thursday, I guess, is Impact's day. Thursday? Impact Thursday? Yes. Impact's on Thursday, so more on that on Thursday, I guess. Fun fact, apparently the pre-sale for the Rebellion DVD has broken records. We found that out from Matt Stryker in the pre-show. Power to the physical media collectors like myself. Hey, there's been some Impact shows that if I was offered the chance and if they were on at a good price, I'd pick up on DVD. They're just not widely offered as they once were up here. Like in 2005, 2006, you could go to an HMV up here in Canada and just walk out with about 60, 80 bucks worth of TNA shows and personality profiles, you name it, and it was amazing. They were good DVDs too. I still have a bunch of them. We then move to the main pay-per-view card, and to open up the pay-per-view is the X Division freeway for the X Division title. The champion Ace Austin walks out with Madman Fulton. I'm glad that this pairing is still a thing. It's one of the longer running acts right now in Impact Wrestling, and it's good. Fulton is the Diesel to Ace Austin's Shawn Michaels. Enough said. Josh Alexander, the Walking Weapon, and TJP. I popped huge as a Rush fan for D'Lo humming YYZ during Alexander's entrance. That was pretty awesome. Love the Austin-Fulton pairing. I already talked about it. Great opening sequence concluded by a Fosbury flop by Austin. Austin pulls out the card to do his traditional paper cut spot on the hands on TJP, but the ref pulls it away, allowing Alexander to land a triplet of deadlift suplexes on Ace Austin. So the Freedom, this was a real banger. This was a solid opener. Is it a match of the night contender in the poll? We'll check it out at the end. But anyway, to finish, Alexander hits the divine intervention, basically his version of a J Driller on Austin, and nets a 1-2 free count to become the new X Division champion. The runtime for this one is 11 minutes and 15 seconds. Much deserved for Josh, for sure. And the North doing some big things on separate rosters right now, with Ethan Page moving to AEW and being involved in a tag team with Scorpio Sky already. And now Josh Alexander picking up the X Division title, and with AEW and Impact kind of working together. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the coming months. Violent by Design have a promo. They're talking to someone in the back and says they will make their mark tonight if they do what EY knows that they are capable of. So this is basically leading up to the 8-man tag, which was up next. It was initially supposed to be Violent by Design, so Eric Young, Joe Doring, Diener, and Rhino versus James Storm, Eddie Edwards, Chris Sabin, and Willie Mack. But Eric Young is out because of injury, and Violent by Design have a mystery partner. So the mystery partner is W. Morrissey. If the name doesn't sound familiar to you, Does Cass XL? Yes, the former 7 foot tall buddy of Enzo Amore, or Enzo right now on the Indies, makes his Impact Wrestling debut, and the dude looks cut. He looks in amazing shape. Big power exchange with James Storm early on, sending Storm to the outside with the big boot, but Storm is finally able to make the tag out to Willie Mack. You know, Willie Mack always looks good in these matches, but it was all about making Morrissey look like a player, and they did in this match. Morrissey hits the East River Crossing, so awesome that he's using that as his finisher again on Mac for the 1-2-3. Post bell, he continues to beat down on Willie Mack, and Violent by Design kind of looks on. So is Morrissey part of Violent by Design? Is Morrissey just a paid fourth man or fifth man, if you will, for Violent by Design, and just is like a I don't want to say a lackey for hire, but maybe a guy for hire by Violent by Design. We'll have to find that out later this week. The runtime for this one was 10 minutes and 5 seconds, but that's one of the big stories coming out of this is, the former Big Cass, W. Morrissey, is now in Impact Wrestling and looked good tonight in the 8-man tag. Friends of 18 years collide in the next match, where we had Brian Myers versus Matt Cardona. Cardona running a LOD Nasty Boys combo ring gear look. Weird but cool. Best friends going one-on-one. Former Raw tag team champs going head-to-head. Big brawl onto the outside to start, with Myers handing out a suplex on Cardona. Broski boot through the ropes on the outside leads to a radio silence on the floor. Not in the ring, though, and Cardona was hurt. But Cardona able to pay tribute to his fiancée, Chelsea Green, in this match by hitting a hot mess unprettier by Cardona, only netting a 2 count. Cardona then goes for a leapfrog, but then the knee goes out. Myers looks to help him out, but 2 big lariats later nets the 1-2-3 count. The runtime for that one was 9 minutes and 45 seconds. So not sure if the injury angle is just an angle or if Cardona was legit hurt off of that one. I would think this is more angle for storyline than anything else. Okay story. This one was kind of a lully type match a little bit, because you had a fairly high tempo opener for folks who were just watching the pay-per-view from the start of the show at 6 o'clock with the X Division Freeway. And then you had the shock of Morrissey showing up in the 8-man tag and getting probably a little bit of a pop at home from the people. There was no live audience or anything like that, but, going forward with that with Impact. So this one here was kind of a, this was your television style feud, not really a blow-off, but probably leading to something bigger and more intricate down the line or something between the two of them. But for those who are fans of the Major Wrestling Figures podcast or whatever, this kind of moved their needle a little bit. So this one for me just kind of flew under the radar a little bit. But Myers and Cardona, a thing on this card. Tony Khan, the AEW owner, is in the house with Aubrey Edwards, Tony Schiavone, and Jerry Lynn. Scott D'Amore shows up in an interview segment with these individuals and says that Brian Hebner will be the referee tonight in the main event. But the two agree that both Aubrey Edwards and Brian Hebner will call the main event tonight. And it was a tandem referee duo in the main event. So we'll get to that when we get to, obviously, the big match that everybody paid for, essentially, for this one. The Knockouts tag team titles were on the line next. The champions Fire and Flava, Kira Hogan, and Tasha Steelz taking on Jordynne Grace, Rachel Ellering, the brand new to Impact as of last week, Rachel Ellering, making her in-ring debut with Impact after signing last week. And Jazz has obtained a manager's license for this duel. So Jordynne Grace and Rachel Ellering were managed in this match by Jazz, which was a surprise as well. And of course, since the last time I seen her, I was trying to think when she came out, when was the last time I seen her in kind of a national run or anything, or a semi-national run or a big promotion run, if you will. Mae Young Classic, maybe a couple years ago when she participated in it. She's added more of a power game to her style since then, and it's very evident early on, the trips to Japan and that stuff. And I think she's built up, a lot more muscle and just is a larger athlete since then as well, in a good way too, which, I don't think her speed was compromised at all in the ring. I think she looked even better in the ring, just, with the power build and doing more power moves than anything else. She's really seemed to have found her niche. And of course, tagging with Jordynne Grace doesn't hurt at all. That will help. Well, that will only help because, that's Vic Mama Pump. That is, that is the queen of power wrestling right now. So this was a decent back and forth contest. Big sit out power bomb by Ellering nets a 1-2-3 on Hogan. After a real back and forth contest with a few great spots. There was an oh my god spot just prior to this. An assisted cutter by Tasha Steelz onto Ellering to the outside. So, as Steelz was flying over the top rope on like a suicide dive plancha, she grabs Ellering, who's standing right near her as she's going over the ropes, and they both go down with Ellering selling the cutter and Steelz rolling out to the floor. If you get a chance to see it or on one of the GIFs or something, or GIFs, whatever you want to call it, it was incredible. So you got to check that out for sure. The runtime for this one was 9 minutes and 20 seconds. So, it moves the belts. I think that this might be belts that might be hot potato for a bit between these two teams, but I think Fire and Flavor finally have their face foils that they've been looking for a few months here, as they've been trying some oddball combinations and so on and so forth to help build up Hogan and Steelz as these great tag team wrestlers. So Kiera Hogan, Tasha Steelz were the former champions, but brand new champions in Grace and Rachel Ellering. So how about that? Your first week in and you've already got a Impact Wrestling belt. That's pretty cool. Last man standing match up next between Trey Miguel and Sami Callihan. This match started hot with a huge slam to the outside by Callihan early on. Miguel fights back but hits a dive to the outside right into the barricades. Callihan attempts to wheel in a production box into Trey at ringside, but Callihan ends up smashing his own fingers in the ordeal. Callihan then shoves a wrench into Miguel's mouth, which was kind of a harken back to Nick Gage and John Moxley a little bit with the pizza cutter. Kind of cringy type stuff. Uranagi by Miguel into a pile of chairs that Callihan set up in the ring. And then there's kind of a table spot where instead of setting the table up traditionally, they invert the table and put the legs up. And there was a big scoop slam by Callihan onto the table legs on Miguel. A superplex, but the table is upside down. Big ouch there. A big power bomb attempt, but Trey reverses it. Callihan hits a cactus special on the edge of the steps. Ouch. Cutter through the table by Miguel, though, on the outside. That is traditionally set up. Nets the 10 count as Callahan's trying to reach up and get back vertical or standing. He's slipping and falling in a mixture of just sweat and perspiration on the table and you name it. So pretty solid, different finish for this type of match, which was kind of cool. And the smaller athlete, and Miguel gets over on Callihan as well. So 15 minutes, 25 seconds. Kind of felt like this was the start of something, though. So I imagine that there might be something a little bit later on in the year, perhaps as we look down the line, that continues this feud big time going forward. Rich Swann backstage interview says it's the biggest match in the industry and his biggest match to date. This was one of the best promos I think he's ever done. Go check it out if you haven't had the chance and let me know. Put your comments below. What did you think of it? The Impact Tag Team titles was the next match on the card, and of course FinJuice, so David Finlay and Juice Robinson are the Impact Tag Team champions. They ended up winning the titles from the Good Brothers earlier on in the year, and this is the rematch. So the Good Brothers are the challengers here. A little New Japan flair on this card, never hurt. Gallows with some Jesse Ventura-esque flair on his vibe tonight. Unique combo offense by FinJuice early on. Good old school wrestling match. Juice comes in with a hot tag later on in the match and just feeling funky, doing the Dusty Rhodes, bionic elbows, and you name it. And also a big assisted demolition decapitation, only nets 2 for FinJuice, but I popped for the move. Yes, that was awesome. Anyways, the finish of this match, Magic Killer attempt for the Good Brothers, but Finlay takes out Luke Gallows, and Juice rolls up Carl Anderson for the 1-2-3. The runtime for this one was 10 minutes and 35 seconds. If this is going to be a preview of potentially a FinJuice Good Brothers New Japan feud, maybe next year or so, if the Good Brothers decide to come back to New Japan, this could be a lot of fun, because this is these are two tag teams with strong, of course, New Japan ties and that stuff. One being FinJuice and the other one being the Good Brothers. FinJuice, they're currently there. Good Brothers were there, probably going back there. So nothing wrong with that. That was great pacing, different style of encounter on this card, and an attention getter for sure. I did enjoy it. We have a backstage promo for Don Callis, who is subbing for Kenny Omega in this promo, saying Kenny is preparing for the contest. Callis just selling the main event hype once again. And we go straight into the Knockouts title contest between two heels, which is very interesting here. Deonna Purrazzo versus Tennille Dashwood, with Caleb with a K in her corner, and Purrazzo, of course, had Kimberly and Susan in her corner. This one was kind of interesting, as these are two heels going at it. Tennille, though, as of late, kind of seems more of a tweener in Impact that I've noticed. Purrazzo with an array of submission holds early on. Tennille fights back with some lariats. Of course, Tennille hits her greatest hits, so the Emma-mite, now it's Vegemite sandwich, the diving crossbody into the bottom turnbuckle, only nets a 2 count. Tarantula into a cross body, only nets a 2 count. And then, kind of harkening back to their Ring of Honor encounter way back in the day, the Muda lock by Tennille, but Caleb, Kimber, and Susan get into it outside. That bit was kind of clunky a little bit. There was a couple of missed spots during that kind of were obvious. You'll see that on Botchamania. The spotlight kick by Tennille, but Kimber breaks up the count. Rolling Exploder by Deonna Purrazzo leads to the Queen's Gambit by Deonna and nets the free count. The runtime for this one ended up being 9 minutes and 45 seconds, and it was the prelude to the relaunch of the returning, and rumors are true, Taylor Wilde making her return, and she puts her flag into the sand, basically saying, hey, I'm here, and I'm coming after your Impact Knockouts Championship. Did I expect a Taylor Wilde return to wrestling in 2021 as one of the storylines of the year? No, but again, this is pro wrestling. Anything can happen. So, good for her. Good on her. She looks great. And I think it's a little bit of a better situation now than it was before, when she left the company way back almost 11 or 12 years ago or so, over the quote-unquote Sunglasses Hut debacle. So, yeah. So if you don't know about that, just Google it. We didn't get a hype video for all of the upcoming events. There's a couple of events coming to Impact Plus over the next few months here in May and June. And then in July, the next kind of big pay-per-view extravaganza that Impact Wrestling is going to give us is going to be Slammiversary 2021, and we see video clips in this. Of course, they did the same thing as they did last year, kind of teasing individuals that either worked with the company in the past that might be coming back to the company, or some of the recent WWE releases. So you see quick clips of Samoa Joe, when he was X Division champion back in the mid 2000s. All right, understandable. Of course, they'd hit that. Chelsea Green, of course, as the Laurel Van Ness character. Okay, for sure. Mickey James as well towards the end of the video. You name it. What I didn't get, and this was a head scratcher, Great Muda? Really? Cool. And I think I saw Marufuji in there as well. So, where, what, how, what? If they just threw those in there as just kind of a, just a joking thing. But that was the big attention getter for me, was Muda and Marufuji are in this. I know Marufuji had challenged for the X Division title a couple years ago or so or something, so maybe they might be bringing in Marufuji again to challenge perhaps Josh Alexander or whoever X Division champion is at that time. Muda, though, is the head scratcher for me because him and Impact kind of left on real bad terms way back in the day. But again, this is a different group that's running Impact. Even after they had uh, the blow off with Bound for Glory a few years ago. I think it was Bound for Glory 13 or 14. I can't remember which. 2013 or 2014 that was over in Japan. That it was Muda's new promotion that he was trying to start up. And there was the tag match main event ish thing or semi main event where I think it was Muda Tajiri versus EC3 and somebody. Might have been Spud, might have been somebody else in that contest. But yeah, then that was their WrestleMania, their Bound for Glory over at the Kurikan, I think it was, in Tokyo. And that was an attention getter back in the day. Very interesting if it does come through. So that was, to me, that's the big thing I'm popping over that video is that, man, they showed video of the Great Muta, so maybe something to do with him. I know that he's a champion right now. I think he's a GHC champion over Noah, and of course Impact has always had a working relationship for the past few years with Noah. So who knows off of that what's happening. Maybe we get Eddie Edwards versus Muta. That'd be fun. And of course, it's main event time, title for title, the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega, flanked to the ring by Don Callis and the Good Brothers, who is up against Rich Swann, the Impact Wrestling World Champion, and the unified, I should say, Impact Wrestling World Champion, now holding the TNA belt as well, flanked to the ring with Eddie Edwards and Willie Mack in his corner. So Mauro Ranallo hits the booth. This was advertised that Mauro Ranallo would call the main event with D'Lo Brown and Matt Striker. He did a phenomenal job as always. I am a Mauro fan, as controversial as that might seem. Also, why is that a controversy? The guy is a awesome play-by-play person. And awesome play-by-play people have their idiosyncrasies. The guy can call a fight and is one of the best in the business. So I think just haters hate because perhaps overexposure on WWE programming over the past few years. That's it. So I don't know. I have written down here, Ranallo calling it an Omega match, getting Sirius Access TV vibes here. Yeah, well, he was also the first announcer with Josh Barnett that was calling New Japan Pro Wrestling on Access TV back in the day. So anyways, Hebner is in the ring as ref. Brian Hebner, as we said. Aubrey Edwards mans the outside of the ring. Tony Khan is at ringside with Tony Schiavone and Jerry Lynn. Scott D'Amore also watching on. This is a cluster already, but away we go with the entrances and the introductions. Out of the way, we get into the contest, and the match goes to the outside, and there's a fight over a suplex. Swann goes for the handspring cutter, but jacks his neck on the apron, and that was a story throughout the match, was Swann selling his neck a little bit. Series of 2 counts by Omega. Pendulum backbreaker into a submission by Omega, no submission. Kotaro Crusher attempt by Omega, no dice though, as Swann counters it, and that's a 2.99 with a cutter off of that. The two end up on the top rope, but Omega falls into the ring. Later on in the match, a frog splash by Swann only nets 2. A Dr. Bomb by Omega only nets 2. And just on and on and on. This match itself definitely up there for match of the night at 23 minutes. And the last 5 or 6 minutes of this thing is kind of finisher mayhem for both guys. We see Michinoku driver by Swann only netting a 2 count, a V trigger into a crunch wrap by Omega only landing a 2 count, a J driller by Omega only nets a 2 count. And then the offense starts for Kenny Omega. He pulls down the knee pad, hits a couple of unprotected V-triggers, and one more V-trigger in front of the Impact roster to send a message to Edwards and Mack. Phoenix Splash by Swann, though, as he fights back, no dice. And then another V-trigger. Take a shot every time there's a V-trigger in this match. It's like super kicks now. And a one-winged angel nets Omega. They 1-2 free count. Great showing by Swann, but Omega will show up Wednesday night as triple champion and immediately again the next night on Impact Wrestling. So The showtime runs at 2 hours, 51 minutes, and 30 seconds as they fade to black off of that with Omega's music playing. And I was kind of disappointed by that. I was expecting maybe a run-in maybe by Moxley to maybe hype their feud, or somebody else off of the Impact roster trying to make a statement or something. But nope, just the victorious Kenny Omega draped in gold with 3 belts now, the AEW, the TNA, and the Impact Wrestling World Championship at the end of this all. So that's it. Now, we do the poll every show for Nitro's Take on your pick for match of the night. And this one, it's obvious, with over half of you voting in the poll at 53%, Omega and Swann getting the Duke for match of the night. And so I thank you guys for voting in that. That's available after every pay-per-view that we do a Nitro's Take. And I'll announce on my Twitter, at Kellen Nitro, so follow me on Twitter, and you'll be able to find out when we are doing these shows, so on and so forth. My overall rating for the show is, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think that the undercard itself was surprisingly good. I looked at the undercard and was kind of like, a little bit. I thought it kind of dragged in the middle a little bit. I was honestly expecting more of a hardcore encounter between Callahan and Miguel, but that was kind of, I don't want to say disappointing, but I thought that it was slightly lackluster in my opinion. Also, Cardona and Myers, I talked about how that match kind of dragged a little bit, and I thought for 2 veterans it was kind of, but again, it's 2 veterans that have worked WWE style before, so it's kind of, take it as you will. But the matches that I really enjoyed the freeway for the X Division title. I thought the main event delivered. I was just upset that there was no hype, no storyline on AEW on Wednesday night going into the main event. I mean, that should have been the night where Rich Swann was running in and attacking Omega on AEW TV. That should have been, the night that, Edwards and Mac might have been in tow and maybe, jumping the Good Brothers or something on AEW TV and so on and so forth. But there was nothing there. Maybe we might start to see that crossover a little bit more because, as everybody knows, the champion is always granted a rematch. So even after he loses the belt. So we'll have to wait and see if that ends up coming to fruition or not. But all in all, fairly solid show, as a lot of people thought it would be. And, it was a show built around the main event, and the main event delivered, I thought. But I would have loved to have just seen more of a build. I would have went balls out with this build if I was booking this, but maybe they're thinking of a different plan here as we start to go forward as we move into the summer months and that stuff. And of course, Slammiversary is one of Impact's biggest shows of the year, coming up in July, and that right after that will be All Out for AEW, which is again their biggest show. But we're leading towards Double or Nothing coming up at the end of May, so see what happens off that. All right, folks, later days, happy wrestling watching. We'll talk to you next time here on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. Hit me up on Twitter at Kellen Nitro. Float a like, a subscribe if you like what I'm talking about, or if you got questions or comments, post them below. Share the video. Let's get the subscriber count above 200. That's the next milestone for this channel. And watch out, the 100 subscriber video is coming. It's in production right now. Notes are being written down. It is universal in nature. I'm working at it on a turbo pace. I might have to get a guy named Herb to help me out. We'll have to wait and see. All right, take her easy.